Hi, friends. Welcome back to Intentional Motherhood. I am your host, Kelsey. And before we really settle in and dive into some possibly nerdy quantum physics type research, I want to just say something really briefly, especially to those of you who have been listening here for a while. And that is that this episode marks the beginning of a whole new season for Intentional Motherhood. You guys know that I have been excited about this rebranding for the last several weeks, and here we are. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. The heart of this operation has not changed, but my focus has become a little clearer. Um, and moving forward, this podcast is going to center more on understanding how creating the reality that you want actually works, like for real, everyday, busy moms like us, how your inner world shapes your outer experience, and why this understanding can actually make motherhood feel lighter and more spacious and more abundant instead of like more pressure or more to do. I know you already have enough to do. You already have enough on your to-do list, and I'm not trying to add more practices for you to be checking off every day. I actually want to help teach you how to create the life you want without hustling harder, but by shifting and aligning your energy so that things are flowing to you and for you instead of you feeling like you're working against something. So if you're new here, you're in exactly the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. If you've been here for a while, I just want to say thank you for growing with me, for your patience as this conversation has evolved and as we continue to deepen and refine the message. So let's get started. Today, we're starting very simply. No new practices, no new techniques. I just want to set a foundation and give you the foundational understanding you need so that everything else we talk about makes sense, because this is what it all rests on. And at its most basic level, we need to understand that everything is energy. I'm not just talking about spiritual ideas, but actual physical reality itself. Your body, the floor beneath you, the chair you're sitting on, the car you're driving, the air around you, and even what you usually think of as empty space is not actually empty at all. Modern physics is now showing us that everything that we experience as solid matter is actually made up of atoms, which are themselves actually mostly empty space, with tiny particles that are in constant motion, vibrating and interacting in ways that we can't even see with our eyes, but we can definitely feel. So even when something feels solid, fixed, or permanent, what's really happening is that that energy is moving in a very stable and coherent pattern. It's not that it's frozen or still, it is still moving, but it just appears to be solid and stable on the surface. This matters to us as everyday Christian moms because most of what we were taught to relate to reality with is in form of materialistic and physical, rigid principles. Our circumstances feel unchangeable. In fact, we oftentimes feel helpless or even like victims to our circumstances. Situations feel, again, immovable. We assume that the world is something that we have to work against or work around. But when we get down to this quantum level, matter actually behaves more like potential and possibility until they are organized and observed. In fact, one author that I love describes it as all this unorganized energy is just waiting for you to give it instructions to organize itself. I use this analogy with my son a lot. I say, when you get a brand new Lego kit, you have all these pieces, they're all there, and it has the potential to be a super cool fire truck. But first, it's all unorganized, and you have to use the instructions to put it together to create the thing that you want to create. And that's exactly how the energy of the atoms that make up the world we live in operate. So another assumption that we often carry is that all the space around us, right, is empty, and we don't see it, so it doesn't matter, it's nothing. But it is filled with this energy, which is information and which is potential. These energetic fields exist everywhere, including inside of us, around us in our bioenergetic field, and they influence how matter behaves and how all these systems organize themselves. Ancient wisdom, traditions, and religions have spoken about this for thousands of years, and modern science is just now giving us a new language to understand it. So all of this means that reality is not a collection of separate objects that are bumping into each other. It's more of a connected system that's constantly communicating and constantly responding to each other. And even you and me are not separate from that energetic system. Even our thoughts and emotions are constantly interacting and responding to this system. And this is exactly why your internal state matters so much, because it's part of this energetic field. So let's talk about why this matters and what I really mean. So everything that exists vibrates at a certain frequency. This includes your thoughts, your emotions, your nervous system, all your mental patterns, your patterns of attention. Stress has a certain frequency. Calm and peace has a certain frequency. Trust, gratitude, each have a specific frequency. You can kind of think about the radio. Each emotion, each thought is its own channel. And if you can tune your channel, your radio, to the same channel as the channel of trust, then now you're communicating, now you're receiving the radio messaging from that frequency or channel. And over time, our bodies and our brains become pre-programmed and very familiar with the channels or frequencies that we spend the most time in. And so they begin to organize around those frequencies and those states. This is where the work of Joe Dispenza becomes really helpful. He explains that your nervous system, your hormones, your perception, your thoughts, and your behavior all align with your most dominant internal frequency. To put this in even simpler terms, he's telling us that your biology, your actual body, learns your frequency and then works to keep it running in alignment with that. It keeps recreating the same biology to match its frequency, not because life is trying to punish you, but because systems, our body systems, repeat what they know. We are always looking for homeostasis. We find a comfort zone and we stay in that comfort zone, and that's exactly what happens with our bodies are based around our frequencies. So I don't say this to discourage you or blame you, but I want you to actually understand and have the awareness to know that you have the power to create reality. When you understand that your biology, and eventually we'll even talk about your physical reality around you, when you understand that that reality is actually responding to you, is not fixed, but is more responsive, then again, you can stop fighting against the reality that you're living in, and you can start to instead make changes energetically and internally first, and allow the flow of this energy frequency and creation to work with you and for you, and to work in conjunction with and in partnership with God's creative power, with God's frequency of love and abundance, to see and experience real changes in your external world. So let's bring this back to motherhood, right? And this is a great illustration of how motherhood works because children make this so visible, because they respond so much more to our internal state, our energetic frequency, than to what we say, right? They can feel our energy and our nervous system. They know where we're at before they even understand what it is you're trying to tell them. They sense if we are stressed or if we have that tension, or they sense our presence and our calm. They know if we're distracted. They know all of that immediately. Their energy picks up on our energy. We don't even have to explain it to them because they already are living that experience. So I want you to just observe in the next few days how your energy is affecting your home. I don't want this to be a new source of pressure or stress or blame or feeling like I have to be perfect. I just want you to non-critically, non-judgmentally, just observe how your children pick up on your energy, how your spouse picks up on your energy, how your internal state is reflected in your external state, even just inside your home. Because if everything is energy and energy is always moving, then nothing in your life is stuck as it is. Patterns will repeat because of that homeostasis that we talked about, that wanting to stay in familiarity. But nothing is static. It doesn't have to be. This is why practices that we're going to talk about, like prayer and meditation and stillness, all work. Not because they're just more checklists, but because they actually start to gently shift your internal frequency. And we're going to be talking so much more about that as we go on. But for now, this episode is just simply setting the stage, giving you an understanding of what energy is, and again, an invitation to observe that in practice. You don't need to change anything yet. Just start to notice how different emotional states feel in your body. Notice how your perception of the same situation can change based on how you're feeling internally. I know there are days when I can deal with a spilled lunch with calm and presence and just the way I want to be. But if I'm already stressed out or frustrated about something else and that same spill happens, I can respond completely differently. That's what I'm talking about how your situation and your reality changes based on your internal state and your internal energy. So notice how life feels different when you're grounded versus when you're rushed or stressed. Because this awareness is going to be the beginning of all this laws of creation, laws of manifestation and abundance, working in alignment with God's universal laws. I will be posting a meditation that you can practice to just help you get into this state of awareness and observation that should feel really restful and peaceful and like maybe a self-care practice rather than another thing on the to-do list or another thing that has to get done today. So be looking out for that. In the next episode, we're going to start talking about how our thoughts are energy and how the repetition of thoughts actually starts to create the reality that we are living in. I can't wait to see you there. Thank you for joining me on Intentional Motherhood. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow, rate and review so that more moms can get this understanding of how to create the world they want, the life they want, without hustling harder. I'll see you guys next time on Intentional Motherhood.